This is how America used to view itself. Jim, let's go to the JFK and Lincoln, the land-grant college thing, where Kennedy is pushing back. This is when John Kennedy actually was proposing a national health care system. This is from the speech he gave proposing a national health care system, and he was talking about how the one in England is state-run, and we don't want to do that, but we want to do something that is better than nothing at all, which is basically what we had in 1961. You could get ripped off by insurance companies. Medical costs were just starting to significantly rise. And he proposed that, and then he said, words to the effect of, that there's this kind of libertarianish notion out there that we're all, well, Margaret Thatcher said, long after Kennedy was dead, but Margaret Thatcher said, there's no such thing as society. There's only a collection of individuals. This is Ayn Randism. It's also a form of sociopathy, but that's another rant. But here's here's Kennedy saying, no, we are not a nation of individuals. We are a community as a country. Here he is.
And those who say that what we are now talking about spoils our great pioneer heritage should remember that the West was settled with two great actions by the national government. One, in President Lincoln's administration, when he gave a homestead to everyone who went west, and in 1862 he set aside government property to build our land-grant colleges. This cooperation between an alert and progressive citizenry and a progressive government is what has made this country great, and we shall continue as long as we have the opportunity to do so.
And he said, we're going to send a man to the moon and bring him back in within a decade. It was unimaginable at the time. There was no technology even to do it. And not only did we do it, but out of that, we got all kinds of technology that basically led to the whole, to the computer revolution, to the, they invented everything from Velcro to it, promoted the ultimately the motion from transistors to integrated circuits and everything. A lot of this stuff came out, in fact, much of this stuff came out of government research for NASA. And then comes Ronald Reagan. Then America changed in the 1980s. Up until the 1980s, we believed in this country. We knew that our founders had fought and died to create a government. And our government represented us, we the people. And we believed in that. And we built a great country. We built enormous amounts of infrastructure all across this country. Built a great country. And then Reagan came along and said, nah, government is the problem. Turn it over to the billionaires. Let them do it. You got Donald Trump right now tweeting about how he can build Amtrak better than the government can. Right. For his own profit. Is that what we want? Why is it that pretty much no other country in the world does that? And when England tried it, it's screwed up. And other countries that have tried it, they're a wreck. Well, anyhow, here's Reagan.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
No, not so much. Government is us. We the people. That's the first three words of the Constitution. Our constitutional government defines our government as us. Now, I would argue that the Supreme Court has done a lot of damage to that notion by allowing billionaires to buy politicians in the 1976 Buckley versus Vallejo case, and then expanding that dramatically with Citizens United and McCutcheon. But, nonetheless, it's like government is us. And if we're going to have a 21st century country, why is it we're like 28th in the world in infant mortality? You've got parts of Baltimore that have worse infant mortality rates than some of the poorest countries in Africa. You've got it's all over. You go through the entire spectrum of metrics by which you measure how great a country is. And America, before Reaganism, was right at the top of all of those things. We were the most socially mobile country. In the United States in 1980, if you were born poor, you were more likely to end up wealthy or at least in the middle class than in any other country in the world. Today, when you look at the OECD countries, the fully developed countries, the 34 OECD countries, which goes from England and the United States at the top to Costa Rica at the bottom, you look at those countries, and we are dead last. If you're born into poverty in the United States today, you are most likely to die in poverty. And if you are born rich, you are most likely going to die rich. And your parents are the biggest determinant of your success. And it's nothing magical or weird, and it's not about, oh, well, they can afford for a better education. Well, maybe there's some piece to that, actually, because we've been destroying our public education system for 35 years, too. Reagan put Bill Bennett in charge of the Department of Education. Bill Bennett had campaigned on a platform of destroying the Department of Education. And the Department of Education is the difference in poor communities between having schools that function at all and having basically no schools, or having schools that are just, going to perpetuate poverty. But we are now at the bottom of the pile on this stuff. And now Amtrak, right? Our rail systems, they were the rails by and large were privatized. And look at what has happened. China has a 300-mile-an-hour train. Japan has a 300-mile-an-hour train. China has 238-mile-an-hour trains. They just built a train, the equivalent of from Chicago to New York, a high-speed train in China. They did it in 5 years. We can't even, we actually appropriated money for this. This was part of the stimulus, to put high-speed rail between Milwaukee and Madison, put high-speed rail between Orlando and I think it was Miami. I could be wrong, but two cities, maybe it was Tampa, a couple of cities in Florida. The Republican governors said, no, we don't want the money. We don't want the jobs. We don't want the infrastructure. We don't care about the business that it'll bring.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Why? In my opinion, because they don't believe in America. They believe in billionaires. And we should not be a plutocracy. We should be a democracy, a republic.